Good morning, everyone. I am here joined by Sander Andersen, CEO of H100 Group, and this is True North Now, Episode 7, H100. We are going to be going through H100's, Bitcoin Treasury strategy, their journey into adopting a Bitcoin Treasury, Sander's journey as well, and just helping the community understand more about them and get them a little bit more exposure and help the investor base perhaps get some more insight into H100 that they didn't originally have. So, Sander, thank you for joining us this morning. And if possible, give us a little bit of background on yourself, how you got to H100 and your professional journey.
Yeah, first of all, hey Adrian, and thank you so much for inviting me. So the journey to H100 started when I moved to Switzerland in October 2022. I moved to Lugano in Switzerland, which is quite famous for their Plan B initiative, which is basically the whole city is focusing on Bitcoin, and then it's quite hard to not go deeper. But at that time, I started a company in Switzerland called Finpeers, and our thesis was to start exploring how to democratize the financial market. That very quickly ended up okay. It's still very much inefficiencies within the family office community, so we started building one of the dedicated family office communities investing into borderless investment strategies, which eventually ended up to be a Bitcoin only investment strategy community. And we closely looked at Michael Saylor and what he did back then. But I think it wasn't before MetaPlanet really started. We said, okay, this is going to happen in every market. And that's when we decided to take one of my previous health companies, which I owned for many years, and we did a reverse takeover on Nordic growth market in Stockholm. And yeah, we did that in April and bought our first Bitcoin in 22nd of May.
Fantastic. And give us a breakdown on H100's core business. I know that you're in the healthcare and healthcare analytics space, so could you give us some more color on that?
Yeah, so H100 started in 2015, or the main company in H100 is called Entire started in 2015, and it was one of the first that did digital exercise and nutrition coaching, which was the beginning of the digital wave of preventive health services. I owned that for many years, and working with family offices the last couple of years, we see that preventive health starts to be a main focus for many people, especially the wealthy ones. And scarce assets like health is something people invest a lot of time and money into. So I decided to go back to that company as well and see what we can do to have that longevity mindset and see, okay, what if humans can live forever? How would you invest into that sector?
So I have to ask a question on that. How would humans live forever? How could humans live forever? Because that's one of the first times I've ever heard someone in the space mention that.
So, first of all, I think if you remove forever, I think you can, but I will come back to that. But it's so much stuff you can do to live longer and better, which basically is the core pillars like exercise, nutrition, and sleep. And then you have, I think the more you look into them, and they're very much connected to the Bitcoin mindset because we can print money, it's a lot of incentives in the society to basically create cheaper and faster. And cheaper and faster basically produce products that are more or less not, or it's very often not good for the society and humans in general. So in this case, the food industry, we don't eat food anymore. We eat I don't know what we are eating, but in the industrialization of food is basically destroyed our health. And so you can start eating more natural food and basically eat food that comes from the real world and not in a laboratory. That's one. And the second is we need to go out again. We need to live more. But on the forever side, I think first of all we need to categorize aging as a disease. We have technology now that can reverse the cells in the body and remove bad cells so we don't get cancer. And then we have to like dig deeper. Why do we get cancer in the first place? So and then the next step after that is basically like changing body parts. Like, and then the question is, after we change body parts, do we end up? Then we have the big philosophical question: what are we? Are we consciousness that are renting a body for a limited period of time, or are we basically the body? But if we believe that we are consciousness, then it should be possible to upload that consciousness to something else, a machine, for example. That's when you start with brain-computer interfaces where things gets a bit deep. And I think I will stop there since this is a Bitcoin Treasury discussion.
Oh no, we one of the things about our platform is that we like to get into those other details. So when it comes to thinking about aging as a disease, I think you're referring to cell division and telomeres becoming shorter and shorter the longer we get, the older we get, and the idea is to reduce the reduction of sorry, the idea is to lessen the reduction of the length of the telomeres to essentially extend our life, is what you're getting at. And you're thinking about ways to do that both naturally and artificially through exchanging body parts or things of that nature. So no, that makes perfect sense. I guess what you're referring to in a way is Bitcoin is anti-fiat, so is H100 anti a fiat way of health, in the sense that everything is faster, 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 mass produced. Instead of eating natural foods, we're eating mass produced chemical foods that aren't necessarily good for our bodies in the long term.
Yeah, you can say that we try to build a parallel health system that take care of the individual and prevent diseases and like motivate people to take care of themselves and go back to more basic principles, not to consumerism, high dopamine. I think we can slow down life a little and focus more on the big, more important things in life. I think that will help for mental health. I think that will help for physical health. I think that's what Bitcoiners has done with money. It's actually cool to save again. And
Mhm.
I think we need to, in the health space, we need to remove the YOLO. Yeah, we only live once. We have to. So, of course, you should enjoy life, but enjoy life isn't necessarily to destroy your body.
So
Um,
you, so basically, Bitcoin is a parallel financial system. H100 represents a parallel healthcare system. There's a lot of correlation there. I like that. That actually makes a lot of sense. Along those lines, because as you're right, we are a Bitcoin Treasury focused show. To bring it back more to the core topic, let's walk through your Bitcoin strategy a little bit. Help us understand capital raises that you've done. Help us understand how you issue equity to the market, perhaps in terms of share sales and for accretive purposes, and if you're engaging in convertible notes or leveraging debt.
yeah, so I think back to the company's vision that, okay, what if we live forever? You need to have a balance sheet that can live forever. So it was natural for me as a Bitcoiner to say, okay, we need a strong Bitcoin balance sheet. And we started buying 4.39 Bitcoin back in late May, or specifically 22nd of May. And we immediately saw that the longevity mindset and the Bitcoiners goes very well together. And it took us a couple of days before we raised our first convertible loan. we always had in mind that we wanted to be a Bitcoin Treasury company because I see so much similarities between longevity and Bitcoin. And I think basically Bitcoiners is one of the best and in many ways also very easy to target customers out there that are they give you direct feedback from day one. So therefore it was important for me to align with Bitcoin values very, very early in the journey. More specifically on the financing part, we decided to start to take on a lot of debt. So we did a convertible note or a convertible loan, was 30% above, 33% above the market price the day it was announced. But how we structured this is relatively short, or it's only 20 days above the strike price before the company has the right to convert. So that could theoretically, if the market responds very well, 20 days later, we will have that as equity. The investor have the right to convert at any time. So it's a flexible debt instrument. It's issued as debt, but it's also like a nice structure when you know the MNAV we have seen in the market in general. So we have converted all our, more or less everything we have raised, other than the last announcement of tranche 6 and 7. And me and Adam, we of course looked at the other ones, what they have done, and we have seen this tranche system was very, very successful. So we designed very early on that after the first convertible note, we designed a 5-step tranche system. So for each tranche, we increased the size with 50% and the price with 33%. And the goal with that was, if we see the market run away from us, we have the opportunity and the incentives within our shareholders to basically put in more capital and ensure that we are building MNAV, even if the stock price run too fast, because it's high MNAV is good, but if you raise from institutional investors, you have to find the right balance, days to cover and all these metrics, which are very important. So we designed this tranche system, and we started with a tranche system basically from after 2 weeks. And now we are at tranche, the next tranche is tranche 8. And with 3 other equity rounds, we have raised close to 100 million in 50-something days.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I know that you've definitely been moving fast. And along those lines, and this is probably a question that is, too far ahead to look, but I like to ask all of the executives this question. And I'll give a little bit of context. So in the US, you have Strategy and you have Semler Scientific, right? And the mining companies. Those are the primary Bitcoin Treasury companies in the US. Then in Japan, you have Metaplanet. Now in the UK, you have Smarter Web. And in the broader European market, you can say that you now have the blockchain group. So does H100 potentially see itself as a Bitcoin exposure vehicle for the larger Scandinavian region? So like Norway, Finland, Sweden, and so on and so forth? Or are you going to be thinking about targeting the broader European market in terms of Bitcoin exposure?
I mean, we have raised capital from all around the world. I think the Swedish market has some interesting dynamics that adds to that basically is beneficial for us, which gives us the opportunity to be one of the main players in Europe. And but it's of course the first market we aim to cover, and where we aim to take market shares is within the Nordic region. But yeah, I think all Bitcoin Treasury companies are global. You see how the X community works. It's, of course, we have some local fans that like that we do it in Sweden. Someone like the Smarter Web company in UK and the blockchain group in France. But on the other side, I think since this is a digital first community, you have to understand like, how do you build so you're attractive for that community. And we have our strategies where we go more towards the Bitcoiners. We have announced that we do the first fully tokenized, or I think at least in my awareness, it's the first fully tokenized convertible loan issued on the Liquid network, the layer 2 network on top of Bitcoin, which basically is a way for you to deposit your Bitcoin. It's 100% backed by Bitcoin, so the debt is 1-to-1 with Bitcoin denominated. And it's an opportunity for you to hold your Bitcoin, be protected with the Bitcoin. But if the stock catches the premium, you have an opportunity to earn yield on your Bitcoin. So by having working with tokenization since 2022, I've done a lot of mistakes, but I also see all the opportunities that lays there. And with a partner like ours, we use Stocker, which has done tokenization in the Bitcoin ecosystem already for many years and over $1 billion already raised. We see that as a very, very strong path for us. Of course, very much aligned with Adam's background from Blockstream, and his technological knowledge, of course, accelerate things like that.
And that is actually the perfect segue. So, if for the audience that may not be familiar with it, and you don't have to go into too many details here. I know that Adam Bach has been he was one of the people that started Blockstream, I believe, and he's been a strong proponent of the Liquid network. And for those that aren't aware, think of the Liquid network as the institutional version of the Lightning network. Would you think that's a fair characterization? I would say.
Yeah, or at least it's the layer where you can issue assets in a way that also fits with the traditional financial world, I would say.
Okay. And I know that Adam Bach has been heavily involved with H100, so I assume that his involvement naturally brought Liquid into the mix. But could you also give us some insight into how Adam got involved? Was this a natural progression in terms of you were looking to broaden out into the Bitcoin economy, and he was someone that you were able to get in contact with? Was he a early motivator, perhaps, in H100 wanting to adopt a Bitcoin Treasury strategy? Could you give us some color on that?
Yeah, so again, back to FinPeers, which has this family office network. One of our investors is Fulgur Ventures, which is one of the investors behind Blockstream's latest round. And that was within that ecosystem. We met Adam and we chatted back and forth on different Bitcoin equity strategies. I've always thought that Bitcoin and equity fits very well together, especially if you can build a community around. And we have looked into everything from mixing Bitcoin with real estate, structuring the loans different. And yeah, so when we decided to do H100, I basically asked Adam, do you want in? And yeah, the answer was yes.
Well, straightforward enough. I mean, that's perfect. I do want to come back to your core business. A lot of people in the space, when we have these companies that adopt a Bitcoin Treasury strategy, they tend to sometimes ignore the core business. But judging by what you have said, it seems that the core business of H100 is integral in the vision you have for the future. So, do you see yourself scaling the core business in tandem with scaling your Bitcoin Treasury strategy? Or are you envisioning a world where the Bitcoin Treasury strategy almost has a reflexive feedback loop into the core business, and the core business has a feedback loop into the Treasury strategy in terms of the ability to raise capital and make acquisitions and things of that nature?
Yeah, so we think it's very hard in the current macro environment, to beat Bitcoin. And we are strong believers that Bitcoin is the hurdle rate. So we currently have a bigger team on the health side. So we are, but we are also, I would say, like in a couple of weeks, we will probably be equal. And it's two separate teams. And the only rule we have is that we are going to grow as fast as we can, but we will not fund with the Bitcoin Treasury cash the health company. So it needs to grow organic and through the strategies and within the budget. So we keep that as a cost-efficient driven company that will not take away, one, focus, and two, the capital for acceleration of our Bitcoin Treasury company, or Bitcoin Treasury strategy. That being said, we think it's a lot of value to be made because of the structure we have. I think within the next 2 years, longevity is going to boom, and people will understand it's not about like taking away everything you enjoy in life, but actually starting to dig a bit deeper. How is the money printing world affecting your daily life? That is true for the pharma industry, the food and beverage industry. Like if you go to the grocery store and read behind, like on the labels, try to understand everything that are in the food. Most people can't. It's so many weird combination of words that you have no clue about. So these things are a mega trend that we think will align. When people understand how they have done this with money, they will soon realize how that is affecting all the other parts in society. That's included food, health in general, but also consumerism, like how we destroy the planet by basically buying cheap clothes and throwing it away as quickly as we are tired of using it. It's not so common in the Bitcoin industry as it is in the fiat world, but I think these two things comes together, and that's when H100 is going to accelerate. But first of all, we are now focused on maximizing Bitcoin per share within fundraising tactics and strategies.
So, and I find this distinction that you're creating with in terms of health and Bitcoin very, very fascinating. Coming back to what we discussed earlier, the fiat food, the fiat way of thinking about health, very, very short term, right? Very, very, I enjoy this cupcake, so therefore I'm going to eat a cupcake. And if I like another cupcake, I'll have another cupcake, and so on and so on and so forth. And the actual cupcake itself is also made with a very quick turnaround in mind. So they're using all the chemicals that you can't even pronounce and that you don't even really understand. So I say that to say this. It seems like what you are saying, very, very high level, is that Bitcoin is the ideal asset to partner with a longer lifespan for human beings. Because if we have a fiat currency that is constantly debasing, whether it's the US dollar or the Swedish krona,
Yep.
I believe, it's still going to debase because they have a printing kind of mindset. The money is set to debase on a yearly basis. So you seem to see a future where people are going to be living longer, and as a result, they'll need an asset that is anti-fragile, that can stand the test of time, that cannot be debased. So in a way, Bitcoin really aligns with human beings living longer because they will need an asset that can last just as long as they can and will not debase 2, 3, 4, 5% every single year. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but I also think that it's going to be a mental model shift as well, because if you are a normal worker, you get your salary every year. You don't feel it directly, but food gets more and more expensive. So therefore you value brands that gives you cheaper and faster food because you
True.
think they do that to be kind to you. But it's actually a money printing problem because you don't have the resources to eat what's good for you. And therefore it's a full economy that says cheaper, faster, but it's not better. It gives us cancer, and it destroys the whole mentality of how we take care of a society. If everything is going to be cheaper and faster, it doesn't need to be that if you have an asset that are scarce. that go up in value over time, and no central organization or country can just print it. So I would say like democratization of the financial world will naturally move into the other things, like, okay, how could you actually buy clothes that are made in a way that is good for the world, and how can we eat the food that are good for you? Today, it's a privilege only to the rich ones. If you want cheaper and faster, cheaper and more stylish fast fashion clothes, you naturally end up more or less with child labor producing your clothes.
That's
In many
true.
cases. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm 28 years old today. I want to be there to change the mindset of people being self-reliant, that people can take care of themselves by teaming up with others. I don't think it's bad to rely on others, but I think it's important that you have your core values and understand how to navigate and how to have a longevity mindset for yourself, for your money, for your family, but also the planet. So I think all of these problems is a money printing problem, because show me the incentive and I'll show you the result. And today, most people get poorer and poorer every year, and therefore faster and cheaper is the main incentive in the society. So that's the main idea with H100. That's why we're building the Bitcoin Treasury strategy. I can't say that we won't move into other sectors. Can't say that we maybe will be more investor focused at one point. But the true vision is there. We want to be there in 2140 when the last halving of Bitcoin happens. We want to contribute with our time and our balance sheet to make that possible. But we have time. We don't need to rush. We don't need to spend a lot of money right now. Right now, we just need to figure out how to do it. I think, first of all, we are creating a movement, and then slowly we will create more and more business models that doesn't need to burn millions of cash before we show that we can solve a real problem for our future and customers we have today.
So in a way, and kind of going off of what you said, where you pointed out rather astutely, show me the incentives and you'll show the rewards and the motivation for doing things the way that they're done. What you're saying is, and if you really think about it, what it means is the longer we live, the worse things are going to get in terms of faster, cheaper, less, lower quality. Because we're going to live longer, the mass production of food is going to increase, which means that the quality of that food might actually proportionally decrease, while the money that we have in our pockets is losing value, while everything becomes quicker, lower and lower and lower quality. And people will lose the vision of the way life perhaps should be lived and focus entirely on the here and now, day in, day out, and have no vision of the future. And I bring that up because you said something very interesting to me, that you want H100 to be around in 2140 when the last Bitcoin is mined, and actually have that kind of a long-term view. So piggybacking off of that long-term view, we've seen that, like with Strategy, for instance, they have the preferred offerings now, right, that are getting more and more popular. And you have other companies that are thinking about doing the preferreds as well. I would assume, not to put words in your mouth, that once H100 gets to scale, would issuing preferred offerings be something that you would consider? Would there be any kind of regulatory or regional, limitations to you doing something like that?
We are definitely looking into that, and I think it's a very, very good product. Since we're a public company, I can't confirm and non-confirm about the
Right,
regulatory
right. Yeah.
side of things, but we are looking deeply into it. I think it has huge potential, and that's where we are going to spend our focus to create products like that.
I think that if you think of it in terms of a regional model, like I mentioned earlier, if H100 is the Scandinavian exposure, I guess you can say, to Bitcoin, I would imagine that preferred offerings would be a very, very attractive product for that region. And I'm not saying this to get any more information out of you, just sharing thoughts in terms of how I think it can go. So I guess we've kind of touched on everything that I wanted to touch on. I really find what you said about healthcare and health and longevity and how Bitcoin could support that is really, really fascinating. You're one of the only people in the space that I've heard say anything like that. So I think that's very, very forward looking. And I wanted to thank you for sharing those thoughts. But in closing, do you have anything that you wanted to share about H100? Anything you wanted to share with the community about what's coming in the next days, weeks, and months, and what investors can look forward to, if possible?
Yeah, I mean, we have raised close to 100 million now. We hold 370 Bitcoin on our balance sheet. So we still have a lot of cash left to deploy. But other than that, I'm super motivated to see what we can do with tokenized convertible loans, where we basically can offer this to more people and in a digital native way and a Bitcoin native way, to not only give it to a few Wall Street family office, highly exclusive community, which we have done for now, and we have wonderful owners. I'm very happy they are on board. But I think what we should work towards is making the new financial world fairer. But I think with fair, you should give equal access. So going forward, we are heavily looking into how to give more people access. But I also want to mention that speed is critical. That's what everyone in the company benefits from. So we will still use the tactics and our knowledge from the family office community we have access to. But having more and easier access to these products, and basically having products where you can help the company getting more Bitcoin on the balance sheet, is where we spend a lot of focus right now. And the tokenized offering is the first product we have.
Fantastic. Well, Sander, thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. I think this is a conversation that went a few directions I wasn't expecting with the healthcare and the longevity, which was really, really good. It was really refreshing to get that kind of a perspective. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us. This will be up on my page for the remainder of the day and going forward. And True North will be uploading it to YouTube at a later date as well. But we look forward to bringing you more content like this in the future. We also look forward to having more leaders in the space and perhaps having Sander on again to really, really dig into that longevity piece. If we want to truly think about how Bitcoin can revolutionize lives, that is one way that I think is going very, very understated. But with that said, I think we're going to end now. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope everyone has a good day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Adrian.